Some people wonder about the formation of reality, while others ponder why it exists at all. Before embarking on the Victoria 21 mission, I was captivated by the latter question. However, if the answer truly exists, I now know it's too horrific to bear. Many outside the scientific community believe the secret to existence lies beyond it. Some might hope to find a creator beyond the edge of reality, but they would be terrified to learn the truth. Of course, most of the scientific community assumes there's no such thing outside, only the physical world we can perceive. Yet, even they have never publicly offered a definitive answer. After all, even if nothing lies beyond the universe, another question remains: is reality finite or infinite? Cosmologists have long sought to map the boundaries of existence. Some argue we live in an endless universe, while others claim the universe is so vast it merely seems infinite. Last month, after a 3-year expedition, the finite argument was proven correct. That might anger some scientists, but it's the truth. Earth, though not fully observable by ordinary means, absolutely has limits, and so does our universe. However, unlike our tiny planet, reality exists on a 2-dimensional plane with an edge. That's what Dr. Alex Irwin explained on May 1st, 2021. He learned this using a technological device known as the A4 radar. Are you really suggesting we believe this absurdity, Dr. Irwin? Dr. John Massey scoffed. That we should believe in an asterisk edge to reality? If the universe were finite, wouldn't it be a boundless metaphysical cube, not a limited 2-dimensional plane? And yet that's not the truth, Irwin retorted, his voice tight. Massey glowered. Almost everyone in this room considers the universe to be infinite. You've made an unsubstantiated claim, Dr. Irwin. With the A4 radar detecting nothing, how do we know what lies beyond this edge? We don't, Irwin admitted. That's why we need to send an expedition. The lead researcher received no immediate response. Dozens of NASA specialists merely exchanged silent glances. Then, a few seconds later, laughter erupted, a cacophony echoing through the vast conference room walls. Brilliant idea, Dr. Irwin, Dr. Massey chuckled. It's a shame that expedition wouldn't reach the edge of reality before the apocalypse. Not with NASA's technology. That's why Dozen Minus will be providing the equipment, Dr. Irwin said, crossing his arms. You know as well as I do that they've made enormous strides over the last century. That's why their technology is kept secret from the public, from governments worldwide. When it comes to their top-secret projects, it's just rumors, Massey countered. Exactly, just rumors, Irwin nodded. Listen, this isn't our first collaboration. We've used their spacecraft before. Machines far beyond our capabilities, far beyond humanity's. The issue isn't whether we can undertake this mission, Doctor. The issue is whether we're asterisk willing. Massey frowned. All right, I'll rephrase what I just said. If we launched a Dozen Minus ship today, we'd reach the edge of the universe in 1,000 centuries, give or take. It won't be impossible if we use a fragment, Dr. Irwin murmured. Dr. Massey immediately fell silent. The wave of laughter in the room slowly subsided, finally washing away. One by one, each scientist realized that Dr. Irwin wasn't just toying with a ridiculous idea. He had lost his mind. The so-called fragments had appeared decades ago in remote parts of reality. They were anomalies of unknown origin and varying purpose. Most of them, of course, led to galaxies beyond our reach. One, in particular, led beyond all known galaxies, beyond the observable universe. I thought we were here for a serious meeting. Dr. Massey finally spoke. I am serious, Dr. Irwin replied. Fragment S79 has fascinated me since its first appearance in late 2010. In fact, I used it to send the A4 radar to the edge of reality to collect data from trillions of light-years away, and the evidence is undeniable. S79 will take Dozen Minus's latest spacecraft, the Victoria 21, to a point even further than anything we can observe, a point near the edge that the A4 radar detected. This journey will involve 1 month of travel to S79's entry point, followed by a year from its exit point to the detected edge. Massey slowly shook his head. You're no longer the scientist I remember, Dr. Irwin. You're no longer the man I thought you were. So what kind of scientist am I, Dr. Massey? Irwin countered, his eyes sharp. One who actively pushes humanity forward, or simply a thesis writer? I'm a man of principles, Massey growled back. I would never propose a mission that endangers human lives. Don't forget the outcome of your last expedition. I anticipated that jab, Irwin said. That florist trip was nothing like this. Massey sighed. Alex, whenever dozen minus is involved, the outcome is always the same. They operate in a way we don't fully comprehend. They provide things that shouldn't be possible, not just in our lifetime, but in 1,000 lifetimes. Their gifts are impossible, and we don't understand them. He turned to the room. This is not a reliable company, everyone. Don't let Irwin persuade you. Don't let advanced technology enchant you. Why is it that every time Stepan Blom supports a project, the result is always disaster? Dozen Minus's benefits are not what we desire. They do not serve humanity. Enough, Dr. Massey, Ms. Kate, NASA's director of OT, interrupted. You know that these meetings aren't solely for the benefit of any single organization. After all, not everyone working in this building is aware of this meeting, are they? Massey glowered. But listen, in 2 days, Senator Nelson will become our new administrator, Kate continued. There will be many changes at NASA in the coming weeks. There will be many eyes and ears watching us. I trust, Dr. Massey, that you will not disclose any information to unauthorized personnel. Of course not, Ms. Kate, Massey replied. I take my work very seriously. So do I, Irwin said. Don't you want to know, John? Know what? Dr. Massey asked. Know what lies at the edge of everything, the doctor whispered. What lies beyond the edge of everything? If there's something beyond the edge of everything, then we haven't truly found the edge of everything, Dr. Massey said. Don't play coy, Irwin snapped. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? It's not that nothing exists beyond our universe. On the contrary, the reality is the opposite. There's something beyond it, something the A4 radar cannot process. Whatever exists beyond that edge, it doesn't adhere to the laws of this universe. It's unlike anything. Precisely, it is nothing. The A4 radar detected nothing, Massey interrupted. Even if we use fragment S79 to propel the expedition to a distant point in the universe, they might find nothing at all, or nothing that human equipment can record. After all, we only know about things that exist within our reality. That means they'll be wasting over 2 years of their lives. We know more about our reality, Dr. Massey, Irwin said. Have you forgotten what dozen minus showed us in Birmingham? You should be careful with your words, Dr. Irwin, Massey warned. My apologies, sir, Irwin bowed his head. And Dr. Massey, the project will continue, whether you agree or not, Kate said. This meeting is not for negotiation. This is merely an announcement. You know what's coming, Calvin whispered to me. Don't say that, I begged. We had long been assigned to a trip like this, and I knew it even before Ms. Kate looked our way. We were huddled in a corner of the room, but her gaze didn't leave us. Calvin Beck and Selene Mackins, she announced, gesturing towards us. 2 of our best physicists. They will join Dr. Alex Irwin aboard the Victoria 21. When? I whispered. July 1st, she replied. 2 months to prepare, Selene exclaimed. How can we possibly prepare in that amount of time? I've been preparing for years, Dr. Irwin explained. The longer we delay, the higher the chance we miss our opportunity. That was the only time Selene openly protested the mission. I, being more passive than her, simply nodded. I had accepted my fate long before Ms. Kate confirmed it. Accepted it in 2011, when I first received clearance to attend top-level meetings. Accepted the possibility that, at some point, NASA would ask for my contribution, demand my service. Selene was right, of course. 2 months wasn't enough time to prepare. But Alex Irwin had spent years planning for this moment. In fact, in those 8 weeks, Selene and I only truly accomplished one thing. We discovered the extent of the doctor's instability. It was clear that, psychologically, he had long crossed the boundary at the edge of the universe. His mind no longer thought of our planet, our reality. And there was only one thing that terrified me more than that. Deep down, I shared his strange delight. His hunger for what lay beyond everything. On July 1st, 2021, the Victoria 21 launched with Irwin, Mackins, and myself aboard. The first month of the journey took us past all known galaxies, into the dark void behind everything observable from Earth, but not yet the edge of all existence. As we approached the fragment, the trembling in my stomach grew stronger, as if something from the other side was pulling us towards it. Fragments were anomalies beyond Earth's observation capabilities, detected by dozen-minus technology in the late 20th century. Time would tell if these tiers boded well for our universe, but the unknown still didn't deter humanity from using them, even if it might mean the end of all we knew. And S79, the fragment we approached, was even more mesmerizing than it appeared in photographs. A tear in the fabric of reality, unlike a black hole. It was a ragged wound, as if a cosmic blade had ripped through existence, whether from another universe or our own, we still didn't know. All we knew at that moment, according to Dr. Alex Irwin, was that S79 would take us somewhere distant in reality, somewhere near the edge that the A4 radar had detected. "Why that expression?" Irwin asked me. I swallowed hard, sweat soaking my seat. "I'm just thinking we still have time to turn back." "We're almost at the center," Irwin said. "The hardest part is almost over. Leave your fear on this side of the rift, Captain Beck." "I'm just not sure I can trust the data," I said. "The A4 radar might have survived the journey to the other side, but it's made of titanium, not flesh and bone." "Compose yourself," Irwin reminded. "You're our captain, and you need to act like one." "I am acting like one," I replied, holding my breath as the edge of S79 began to envelop our ship. "That's why I'm wondering if we should stop." "You may be the captain of this vessel, but I am still the project leader, Beck," Irwin growled. "Don't make me exercise that authority." "I will if necessary," I retorted, tightening my grip on the controls and pushing them forward without another word. As soon as the ship accelerated, the fragment completely engulfed us. I had expected an endless tunnel, expected the sensation of being pulled by an overwhelming external force, stripping my flesh from my bones. But there was only a moment of emptiness, a moment of neither sight nor sound. S79 possessed a depth of darkness and silence even greater than space itself. I realized with horror that we were in a place between 2 points of reality, a tier revealing what truly lay beyond the edge of everything. It wasn't that we could see it. I just felt, in that brief moment, that Irwin had been right all along. There was something beyond our universe, and it didn't surprise me. It terrified me. Then reality reappeared. We faced the darkness of a starless, distant part of the universe. Dark, but not without color. Silent, but not like the silence of S79. Although we had bypassed all galaxies, stars, and planets, we were clearly back in reality. Around us was only darkness, but it was space. It was substance, not empty like the fragment. "Well done, Captain," Irwin laughed, slapping my back. "Now we will pursue the edge of the universe as it flees from us. Hopefully, the Victoria can travel at the speed dozen-minus promised. You've done very well, Captain Beck. By my estimation, we'll find the edge of the universe on June 29th, 2022. I sighed, nodding. Ahead is only a vast emptiness, Dr. Irwin, and then true nothingness. "Not nothingness, Captain," Irwin said. "If there's an edge, there's something beyond it." He left, and I tried not to react sarcastically. I knew well that the concept of nothingness didn't exist, and if there was an edge of reality with something beyond it, that something wouldn't be nothing. But I didn't want to argue. Dr. Irwin didn't acknowledge my expertise. He seemed to forget that Selene and I were physicists too. In his eyes, he was the smartest person on Earth, and every opposing opinion came from lesser minds. "You did well today. We made it to the other side," Selene said as I crawled into my bunk later that evening. "Dr. Doom had a lot to say, didn't he? Did he make a good pilot?" "Congratulations, Selene. You successfully avoided him all day, didn't you? No analyzing things or making up bullshit work," I said, putting my hands behind my head and leaning back on the pillow. "You're lucky, you know." "Oh, I'm sorry, Your Majesty, Selene." She mimicked my English accent clumsily. "Oh, stop it, Yankee Doodle," I said as she looked down from the upper bunk. "You really know how to flatter, Calvin, don't you?" she replied, coming down the ladder. I grinned. "Of course. It's that classic British charm. Why don't you come over here and let me show you that charm?" "Let me stop you before you ruin everything," she gently interrupted, climbing into my bunk and silencing me with a kiss. I wasn't sure why we kept our relationship a secret. NASA officials might have known, and they might not have cared, but honestly, I knew why we kept it hidden. It was a secret we wanted to keep from Dr. Irwin. His temperament was unpredictable, shifting like the wind. Sometimes he was enthusiastic and personable, but there were times when he was lethargic and lacking empathy. The one constant was Irwin's focus on the mission, and I had a terrible feeling he would react very negatively if he knew about my relationship with Selene. Time passed quickly. Only the passage of time reminded me that we were still moving forward, not stuck in an eternal dungeon. Darkness enveloped the ship's windows, so measuring distance by eye was useless. However, the journey didn't bother us as much as I had once imagined. Irwin was brimming with excitement about finding the edge of the universe. Selene and I were brimming with excitement about having each other. Occasionally, we even had fun moments with Alex. He wasn't a monster at NASA. I never had a reason to hate him. However, since we passed through the fragment, he had changed. The mission could be glorious, but it could also kill people. One night, as we approached the edge Irwin had declared, I was woken by a voice. Selene was still sound asleep, so I gently lifted her arm from my chest and slipped out of bed. I tiptoed down the ship's main corridor, and the voice grew louder. Finally, I found Dr. Irwin standing near a side window, staring into the cosmic abyss. "Let us see," he muttered. "Doctor," I called. "It's out there," he whispered. I looked at his face and realized he wasn't looking at anything. His eyes were closed. He was sleepwalking. Of course, that didn't make his murmuring any less terrifying. As I looked into the darkness, I was also certain I could see it out there, the thing I had seen in the fragment, if it truly was a thing. Again, I didn't see it with my eyes, but with my body. Shivers ran through me, and I knew we were approaching the edge. I didn't tell Selene what I had seen. I quietly slipped back into bed, closed my eyes, and tried to sleep, or at least pretend to. When her alarm rang at 6:00 a.m., I feigned waking up with her. "Are you all right?" she asked. I nodded, trying to shake off the weariness in my body. "Yeah, just a little tired." "Well, wake up then. It's another day in paradise, my love," Selene quipped. She was wrong. That morning was different, not just because Irwin's sleepwalking had unsettled me. It was an aching sensation in my chest, something that had followed me since we passed through the fragment a year ago. And when I found Irwin on the bridge, sitting in my chair, I knew what he would say. "We've found it," he whispered. I called Selene, and all three of us gathered in the cramped cockpit to observe the darkness ahead. "What's the latest analysis?" she asked, tapping the screen next to her. "We've reached the edge detected by the A4 radar, the final point in our reality where matter can be detected. A mile ahead of us, it all ends there." "Why aren't we moving?" she asked. "Captain Beck stopped us. He wanted you present before we acted," Irwin replied gruffly. I sighed. "We need to think about this. What do we see in front of us?" "Nothing but darkness." "Nothing," Irwin sneered. "I warned you about that word. If we see darkness, there's something out there beyond the edge." "I don't know what I see," Selene said. "Not an edge, just more, something." "So what were you expecting, Dr. Irwin?" He turned to face her. "A line in the sand, a border between our reality and what lies beyond it. We are stepping into the unknown, Massey. We have no idea what we might find, what we might or might not see." "That's precisely why I think we should send a message home," I said. "We need to discuss our findings with ground control, collect data, and then—" "And then what?" Irwin interrupted. "I've been doing that for years, Captain Beck. Collected countless metrics, performed analyses, and what did I find? Nothing the A4 radar could read. Nothing anyone at NASA could understand. We've exhausted every other option. There's only one way to find answers: keep going." I paused, my eyes fixed on the window to avoid Selene and Alex's gaze. They were waiting for me to make a decision. I knew Dr. Irwin craved to explore the so-called beyond the edge of the universe, and so did I, before the fragment wormed its way into my mind, before it made me realize that horror awaited. I looked at Selene, and a thought struck me. I had never asked her in the past year. I had never asked if she felt it the something beyond everything, which seemed so close in that moment we were in the fragment, between 2 points of reality. Perhaps I was too afraid to know. Captain, Dr. Irwin said softly, it could crush us into oblivion. You know that Mackins and I aren't here voluntarily for this mission, don't you? I whispered. We're not here to die voluntarily. You could have withdrawn, Irwin said, but you didn't. No one can withdraw from top-level clearance, I retorted. The doctor shook his head. Don't make it sound like a prison. You chose to be part of top-level clearance. You chose to learn about things NASA didn't want anyone to know. You and Mackins, you joined because you wanted more. You wanted to see things that had never been seen. He's right, Captain, Selene said timidly, no longer looking at me. This is our legacy. I'm starting to think legacy doesn't matter, I said, reluctantly nudging Irwin out of my seat. After death, nothing matters. I don't think death exists out there, Irwin whispered, gripping my shoulder as I sat down and placed my hands on the controls. And I think you know that too. I looked at the screen as I pushed the Victoria 21 forward, and I watched as we approached the edge of all that the ship's radar could detect, the edge of matter. What existed beyond it, we were about to find out. I was certain we were about to be obliterated. My fingers gripped the controls, trembling as the ship's radar displayed fewer and fewer signs of existence. And then, without a bang, we experienced that sensation again, something unlike the emptiness of the fragment, but far worse. A darkness that didn't swallow us, but still enveloped us. We crossed the edge, Irwin whispered. My God, we're still alive. My knuckles were white on the controls. I know, I said. I know you weren't as certain as you claimed. Certainty about anything is the poison of a thinking mind, Irwin said. I am never certain, Captain, and whatever we experience from here on out, we must be cautious. We cannot trust our senses. For someone who was never certain about anything, Dr. Irwin seemed strangely confident, as if he possessed insights I didn't. I recalled his delirious mumblings, and I began to think that when we entered S-79, he might have experienced more than I did. Perhaps he had seen, heard, or felt something that made him say such things. My thoughts returned to reality when the control stick snapped back, with such force it dislocated my wrist. Damn it, I yelled, pulling my hand away and clutching it. Selene rushed over as the ship tilted and stopped. Are you all right, Captain? I gasped, realizing that an invisible force in the darkness had halted the Victoria 21. We hadn't landed, hadn't crashed. We seemed to be encased in a black gel, a thick black substance that had stopped the ship, and no matter how much I tried to adjust, I saw no way to fix the problem. After all, there was no problem to fix. There was no way to move the Victoria. The engines and all other systems were still operational. We were simply being held by a black blanket. We have to get out of the ship, Irwin said. I'm running tests, I replied. We'll see what's out there. And it will detect nothing, Captain, Irwin asserted, shaking his head. You still haven't accepted this, have you? We've crossed reality. We have to step out and see what we find. It wants us to step out, Selene whispered in shock. I turned my head towards her, and she looked at me with apprehension. What do you mean? I asked. Aren't you going to question him? Selene said, raising her eyebrows towards Irwin. He said that too, but I didn't think you'd seen or felt it, I said. I know both of you did, she replied. You were talking in your sleep, Calvin. Captain, Irwin corrected. There's a proper procedure, Mackins. Selene gently prompted. We need to talk about what happened. We all saw something in the fragment, didn't we? There was nothing to see, Irwin said. Right, not something human senses could process, but I know it was there, and I know both of you felt it too. I don't know what I felt, I said. I don't even know why I'm here. We're here for the same reason Dr. Irwin is, Sally, she said. We pretend we're different from him, but we've been lying to ourselves, Captain. We could have turned back. We should have turned back, no doubt about it. But that's not in our nature, is it? It's not about the fragment. It's not about what we feel or don't feel. All three of us are in some way broken, and we hope to find something out there. What's out there? An answer that could heal us. I don't know what you're talking about, Irwin said, standing up. This is about the advancement of humanity. This is the greatest discovery. This has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. It has everything to do with me and Calvin too. We're always searching for something bigger than ourselves, something that makes us feel whole. Why do we yearn for the stars? Earth isn't enough for us, Selene said. We brought ourselves here. The thing in the fragment didn't call us. It told us to stay away, and we didn't listen. I turned to look at Selene, and the words caught in my throat. My entire body seemed to freeze as I realized my surroundings. I was outside the ship. The Victoria 21 was behind me in the darkness, not on any surface, not anywhere or in anything, and I wasn't on the ground either. This was not a place where ground existed, not a place where normal physics applied, but the ship still existed. I still existed. Did I exist? I wondered. Was this real? There was no time in that darkness, but I believe much time passed before I realized I was alone. Realized that Selene and Alex had disappeared, and from what I could see, staring through the Victoria 21's main window, they, like me, were no longer on the bridge. I tried to call for them, but no sound came out in that place. Yet, I was certain I had tried to make a sound. A door creaked open, the first sound in that silent space. Something in the void. I spun around, and a wave of dizziness washed over me as my surroundings completely shifted again. I was standing in a room with mahogany floors, ceilings, and walls. A few dirty panes of glass revealed not darkness, but a white void outside. Every surface was adorned with drawings and images, human figures and creatures I had never seen, mostly illegible scrawled text. Who created me? That question was handwritten on many sheets of paper, sometimes written over other existing texts. The hurried script seemed to worsen as I read from the walls towards the door. These documents revealed the thoughts of something that had gone mad. I immediately wanted to try the door, but my neck itched. It signaled that something dreadful lurked in this place, but it also signaled that something was behind me. I turned around abruptly, ready to face my fate. But what I saw was far worse. It surpassed any of my imaginings. On a cluttered wooden table pressed against the wall, there was a crystal sphere. Inside its flawless shell, darkness swirled, containing bright specks of color, a constantly moving mist, which seemed to be the only warmth in this place. The universe. My mind filled with anxious and paranoid thoughts as my eyes darted across the fragile sphere and the white void outside the window frame above it. Reality seemed so small and meaningless. Worse still, I thought of something that had carelessly left such a valuable object on a wooden table, a tiny sphere placed unsupported on a pile of papers. I never wanted to meet that thing. As my eyes were still captivated by the miniature model of reality, a scream echoed from behind the door. I turned around, my shoulders jerking in fear. I knew from the sound of that pained voice that it was Selene, and I called her as I rushed through the door. I found myself standing in a long mahogany hallway, just like the first room, and standing on shaky legs at the end of the corridor was Selene. "Are you all right?" I asked, running towards her. As I got closer, I noticed she was reading one of the papers tacked to the wall. And when I reached her, I realized with horror that I no longer knew if the sound she was making was one of fear or laughter. "Selene," I whispered, then repeated my earlier question. "Are you okay?" She laughed without turning around. "It's horrific, Calvin. It's horrific." "What does it say?" I asked softly. Fortunately, Selene didn't answer. She began tearing the paper, startling me with her sudden panic. Though I begged her to calm down, she was mesmerized by her task, focused on removing any mad thoughts that had invaded her mind as she read. I still couldn't imagine what combination of words could evoke such terror and joy. I didn't know what she had read, and I never asked. I was just grateful she had destroyed it before finishing. "Don't let me look at anything else," Selene whispered, finally calming down as she collapsed into my arms. "Don't read anything unless you want to lose a part of yourself." "I read something," I admitted. "Who created me?" she whispered. I nodded. Do you think something living in this place could be?" Selene stammered, but I knew what she was about to ask. "I think we need to find Dr. Irwin and get out of here," I said. "I'm sorry, Calvin," she sobbed as I led her to the door at the end of the hallway. "We should have turned back. I just had to know, and now I know. I know just a little, but it's too much." I had never seen Selene like this. We had been together for years. We had known each other for at least 10 years. She had always been strong and vibrant, always full of color and energy. But after reading what she read on that paper, she became a frail, gray shell. When we opened the door at the end of the hallway, it led to the final room, a room with mahogany floor and ceiling, but glass walls. Towering panes of glass revealed the white void beyond the house. The narrowness of the refuge, or what once was a refuge, was in stark contrast to the endless space beyond the universe. In stark contrast to the colossal size of reality, now shrunken into a tiny crystal sphere. The house was a structure too artificial for me. It felt wrong. "Alex," Selene whispered. I was so lost in thought that I barely noticed the project leader standing before the front glass wall, staring into the white beyond. He didn't turn around when we entered the room, even though the creak of the door echoed through the glass panels. Selene and I approached Dr. Irwin cautiously, and I almost expected him to mumble something again. However, the situation was far worse. He was completely silent, completely motionless. Irwin said nothing at all, gave no sign that he recognized our presence. I tried to avoid looking into the endless white, fearing it would drive me mad as it had him. Piles of papers lay scattered on the wooden floor at his feet, and my entire body begged me to leave, begged me not to place my hand on his shoulder. I did so almost unwillingly. "Dr. Irwin," I said, "we need to leave." He looked at me, not slowly, nor with his usual passion. That had completely vanished from his eyes. He looked even emptier than Selene. She was still vibrant compared to him. But I only looked at his face for a second. I quickly focused on what he held in his hand, a human skull. "Is that?" Irwin interrupted, his eyes and voice piercing through me. "This isn't the creator's skull. He's not here. He left long ago." "Who is it?" Selene asked, trembling. Dr. Irwin moved with terrifying precision. His eyes stared directly at Selene. "Don't you know?" he asked with a triumphant sneer. "You've read his words, haven't you?" Selene shivered. "I only read a small part." "It's wonderful," Irwin finished, bearing a bloody grin. Selene and I recoiled, exchanging horrified glances. At that moment, I thanked her quick thinking. Thanked that she had enough strength to tear the paper before crossing the point of no return, before completely losing herself. As I looked at the piles of paper at Irwin's feet, I wondered how many of the creator's words he had read. Most of all, I cursed myself for my curiosity. Despite Selene's warning, I desperately wanted to know what was written on the countless papers in the house. But I still cherished my sanity. I cherished it enough to resist that tempting, ink-filled call. "What have you done, Alex?" Selene cried. "She truly doesn't know," he whispered, his eyes still not seeing us. "He has stepped into another reality. What he sees or feels is now all that matters to him. Dr. Irwin has lost himself to the white out there. Selene and I have to leave." "We're leaving, Alex," I said. "I won't," he replied, laughing horribly. "No, I don't think you should stay," I said. "Don't you want to know?" he said, raising the human skull high. "Don't you want to know the secret of this skull?" Selene urged, pulling my sleeve. "Let's get out of here." "This is me, Captain Beck," Irwin cackled, shoving the bloody skull into my hands as tears streamed from his bloodshot eyes, a remnant of my physical form. A rattling sound echoed, and we shuddered as the distorted man rushed towards us. Behind him, on the mahogany floor, was a pile of bones that had fallen from his body. Disjointed bone fragments fell through his flesh as he walked, not through wounds, but through invisible skin. His body was merely a ghostly form. His bloody skeleton and Irwin's red smile were the only splashes of color in that white place. His bones formed a gruesome path from the pile of papers to his spectral form. And as I recalled the moment before, when I placed my hand on his shoulder, I realized I had felt nothing at all. "Self-cannibalism," he whispered, perhaps rereading what he had read. "That's how I grew up. I didn't know how one could self-cannibalize their own body, didn't know how they could transcend their physical form by doing so, and I didn't want to know." Selene sobbed as I gripped her hand, pulling her towards the door. Perhaps she already knew. Perhaps she had seen something that could explain how Dr. Irwin had consumed himself. I looked over my shoulder and cringed in fear as the monster lunged towards us, one hand outstretched. "Don't go," the man roared. "I have to get to the next floor. I have to consume more so I can reshape everything." I pushed Selene through the door, not letting her look back. I tried to ignore that gliding form, the one who had once been our determined, yet still human, leader. And when we reached the final room, I stared at the sphere of reality, thinking about our next move, while Selene looked over my shoulder with horrified eyes. She choked. "We have to touch it," I said flatly. "We have to touch the sphere." With my hand still clutching hers, I led us both towards the crystal sphere. It was the only way. I didn't know why I knew it, but I did. I hadn't read any words other than the question of the Creator's existence, but I knew. Irwin's growling, which I could feel approaching us, vanished as Selene and I peeled from white to black, returning to the trapped world we had first found beyond the edge. A door leading to the house stood hundreds of feet from our frozen ship. Selene and I stood in between. "How do we get out of here?" she asked as we ran towards the Victoria. The ship was still stuck in the black void. "We engaged the EWP with reverse thrust," I said. Her eyes widened because the EWP was not yet authorized for use, but she didn't think I was crazy. She didn't object as we entered the ship, and I hurried to the cockpit. She knew, as well as I did, that nothing was crazy in this place. I activated Dozen Minus's experimental feature, a feature that could end in disaster. It was the only idea I had, as the main engines couldn't move the ship an inch. I reversed the ship, activated the EWP, and screamed along with Selene as our bodies were almost torn from reality. Reality stretched infinitely around us, and I thought we might be ripped into oblivion. However, what horrified me wasn't the pain. It was the face filling the darkness ahead, something that had followed us from the white void into the black. Dr. Irwin, the man who was now just a giant biblical head, bared his menacing jaws, a mouth devoid of teeth, devoid of smiles, speeding towards us, intent on devouring us. As I desperately pushed the controls away, praying the ship would obey my will, there was a nightmarish moment as I stared into the maw of death. Then, the ship moved. Reality twisted us in agony. We shot backward, and then the ship's radar exploded as we returned to a measurable reality. We were back in the universe, back to what existed in the crystal sphere. It was a silent journey home, a year spent doing my best to help Selene recover. She blamed herself for making only a little progress, but in my eyes, it was immense. We returned to Earth in late October 2023 and told NASA only a fraction of what had happened beyond the edge of reality. We said that Dr. Irwin had died, a smaller lie than outright fabrication. We still had his skull as proof. The woman I loved was now a shadow of her former self, but she had come a long way. Selene fought to recover, and I often saw glimmers of hope in her eyes. I hope those glimmers will last as time passes, but there will always be dark days, and there will certainly be days when she stares at something in the distance that I cannot see. Perhaps I cannot see it, and I know it concerns the horrific truths she learned out there. Still, she is Selene. As for Dr. Alex Irwin, he died the moment we crossed the edge of the universe. What terrifies me more than anything is knowing that not only are humans fragile, reality is fragile too. A crystal sphere that, at this very moment, is being stared at by a monster in the house beyond reality. That crystal structure could be shattered in an instant, and all would end.